A very warm welcome to our Miracle Mondays. My name is Reverend Lisa Windsor. I am the founder of Modern Miracles Academy, and I'm so happy that you're here. If you happen to be catching the recording, I'm also very happy that you're here because we are always joining in the holy instant of now. So time and space cannot disrupt our connection. So here we are together and feeling blessed for all these beautiful reflections. Because if you are on the call, you can see that there is all of these reflections of mighty companions that are walking alongside you. We are walking together on our journey home to God, to remember Him, to remember who we truly are. And we do not wake up alone. We do not walk alone. We do not wake up alone. So this is a blessing. I am, we're going to continue on our journey through the text of A Course in Miracles. And I just don't want you to worry if you are just starting here for the first time today, or if you're at a different place in reading the text, or if you're just beginning, or if you've already read the text. I assure you that the teachings are symphonic, which means that they're always looping back around and around and around. And whatever you're meant to hear today is going to be perfect for your learning. So just really deeply trusting. Don't worry about the linear time and trying to read the text step by step. If you're doing that, that's fine. And if you're not, it's totally perfectly acceptable. We trust our inner teachers in A Course in Miracles, Jesus and Holy Spirit. We trust they know what they are doing. Okay. So let's begin with an opening prayer and then we'll do a little exploration. Okay. So my invitation to you, if it's safe and if you can, is to rest your eyes closed and just start to bring your attention inward, your focus inward. Let's take some deep breaths, just giving ourselves permission to relax. As we breathe, we are opening our hearts and we are opening up our minds to the presence of God. Feeling so grateful for this time of reverence, to devote our attention to His teachings, and to really open to an experience of love. Love is our inheritance. It is who we are as God created us. And that experience is accessible to all of us. So let's really open up to receive the gifts of God. His peace, His contentment, His patience, His joy. It is all ours to receive. Just continue to relax, just remembering that we are safe. Just remembering that we are all here for the shared purpose of healing. We're all here to heal together. Again, we do not walk alone. We are inviting Jesus and the Holy Spirit to guide our steps and to guide our learning and to guide our unlearning. Just placing our minds under their direction. Grateful that we can rest inward and know that whatever we need for our healing is given. We're just going to hold steady in this prayer in this connection and communication. And ever so gently, when we feel ready, can allow for our eyes to open. Mm. Okay. So, welcome again. We are on this beautiful journey through the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And I'm just so thankful to Jesus. I do feel as he's navigating our learning, our unlearning, he is just taking us so lovingly by the hand and opening up our eyes to new vision, opening up our hearts to another way of experiencing life. And he's taking us gently, and yet to the ego, it's not so gentle. It's not always so gentle because we are holding a mirror to our perceptions, and it's time to look at what we are perceiving. Right? We are here because of that. We are here because there has to be another way. There has to be another way to see. So, how this has been working is he is just having me highlight, just underline things in the book. It's very old school. And he's just asking me to touch on things, um, on a few sections. And then I'm just asking you to be really attentive. And how that works is we're working in right-mindedness when we come on these calls. Okay. So it's very like there's what we call, I would maybe call vertical listening or active listening, where you plug into the Holy Spirit and Jesus's connection. So we did that in the prayer, right? We plugged in. They're leading us and guiding us now. And then we stay quite relaxed. It kind of feels like being relaxed, but also alert, kind of like miracle ready. And in that way, we stay receptive to what we need to hear and what we need to receive. Okay, so there's going to be certain things that land in your heart, that clarify in your mind. If you're trying to understand everything I say, you're probably going to end up in a lot of confusion. So just take some deep breaths, rest back in, and let go. There are the way the teachings work is they're repeated again and again and again, and we always know when we listen to something again, we hear something fresh. When we read it again, we see something we didn't see before. That's why I am extending the recordings ultimately, because they will be there for you over time to revisit, to come back to allow it to wash once again over your mind. So just let it be whatever it is for today, for this moment. Just let it be that, okay? And again, it can feel a little overwhelming if you're trying to process through what I'm saying. I am not processing through what I'm saying. I'm just going to open up and I'm going to trust that whatever is going to come through is going to bless our mind, our collective mind. Okay. So let's begin. We always in Modern Miracles Academy, we follow the Foundation for Inner Peace's published book, okay, of A Course in Miracles, and it's the third edition. So that's the one, if you're ever like wanting to reference what I'm talking about, the Foundation for Inner Peace is the publisher of this particular book. This is like from the original scribing. And so we're on chapter 2, and my sense today is that we're going to cover section 4, 5, and 5A. Okay, so sort of like 3 sections. Okay, so chapter 2 is called The Separation and the Atonement. So that's sort of the overall arching theme that's going on. And our section 4 is called Healing as Release from Fear. Jesus tells us our emphasis is now on healing. And then we'll go back to the title, Healing as Release from Fear. So healing is the release from fear, okay? And that's where he is putting our emphasis now. He tells us that the miracle is the means The atonement is the principle and healing is the result. Okay, so the miracle is a shift from fear to love. That is the means given. Another word for the miracle is forgiveness, right? That going on that bridge from fear to love, that shift in mind. So the miracle is the means, forgiveness is the means given. And the atonement is the principle, or we could even say the atonement is the remedy, because the atonement tells us that the separation from God never occurred. And that is why all things heal, and that is why miracles work, because anything that was made of the separation through the miracle is cleared and dissolved, and all we have left is love. The result is the healing. The healing is the result of the miracle. The healing is the result, which is beautiful, right? That's what we end up in a state of love. That's the healing, okay? So he tells us that all healing is essentially the release from fear, because all suffering is essentially fear. It's all rooted in fear. It's all rooted in being caught in the ego thought system. So he tells us that to undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. Okay. He also says that you do not understand healing because of your own fear. So we want to understand healing, and we are bringing ourselves into this experience saying, I am going to accept the correction, the atonement, the healing for myself, right? He's training miracle workers. He's training ministers of God. But the whole point is that we have to accept the correction and the healing first, right? He tells us you can't undertake the healing um, because of fear, right? You do not understand healing because of your own fear. Okay, well, here we are and we're open, right? Because we want to heal. That's the key. He then tells us that a major step in the atonement plan is to undo error at all levels. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about levels. He says sickness, or I don't know why he calls it not right-mindedness. We could just say wrong-mindedness. I'm going to say wrong-mindedness. I think it's a little easier, but sickness or wrong-mindedness is the result of level confusion. Okay, so kind of like, what is level confusion? So if we were not in level confusion, if we were in level alignment, we would know that the cause of everything is the mind. And we would know that the effect of that, of everything, is coming from the mind, and it is the body, the world, all these things that we experience externally. So the cause is the mind, and the effect is the body, the world. Level confusion is when we get this mixed up. Okay. And level confusion, which is what Jesus says is sickness, right? Or wrong-mindedness, means that we believe that the body, the world is the cause of the problems of our suffering. And we don't see that the mind is involved at all, right? We see that the world is the problem, the bodies are the problem, the sickness is the problem, it's outside. And then we go to look for remedies outside of ourselves, right? That's level confusion. The true aligned level is that mind is the cause, and we know we're either in the ego mind, which is wrong-mindedness, or we're in the Holy Spirit's mind, which is right-mindedness. And the cause of all of the pain, the suffering, everything is our being caught in wrong-mindedness, okay? So he says that we have referred to miracles as the means of correcting level confusion, for all mistakes must be corrected at the level on which they occur. Then he says something very important. Only the mind is capable of error. Only the mind is capable of error. So all mistakes have to be corrected on the level of the mind. Period. He tells us the body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error, produces all physical symptoms. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. Okay, so I'm going to go over what magic is, right? Magic, the belief in an external world, in external causes, and in external solutions. This is the whole state of wrong-mindedness, right? Is just the belief that we are bodies in this world, that this world is happening to us, that the problem is outside of ourselves, that the solutions are outside of ourselves. That is magical thinking, okay? And so we spend so much of our time seeing the problems outside of ourselves and seeking for magical solutions to those problems. And the magic can seem to work, but it doesn't heal. It doesn't actually heal. It doesn't actually remove the fear from the mind because it bypasses that there's even a mind at all. It's all about the physical world. It's all about the bodies. It's all about magic. It has nothing to do with the mind. Okay. So this is just so important, right? Because Jesus is telling us, he's like, the healing has to be centered on the healing of your mind. The whole problem, the whole cause is you believed that you separated from God, that you believed it was a thought in your mind, a belief in your mind that you separated from love, that you could separate from God. And holding that belief in mind, you then have this experience that you are separate from God. And there's this whole world seemingly playing out that emphasizes your separation. We have to start to pull it back to the power of our mind and change our mind. That's why A Course in Miracles is off, just coming back again and again, choose once again, choose once again. It always comes back to the healing on the level of the mind. So, you guys, this is actually really good news. All correction is on the level of mind. Okay? All error is on the level of mind, and all correction is on the level of mind. What that means is that you can get in touch with the error because it's in your mind. The mistake, the misperception is in your mind, and the correction is also in your mind because the correction is the Holy Spirit. The correction is the right-mindedness. Okay, he's going to go on again. Only the mind can create because spirit has already been created. Spirit is created, it's perfect. And the body is a learning device for the mind. Okay, sing. Only the mind can create. Spirit is already perfect, it's already been created. We don't need to worry about that. That's perfection. And the body is a learning device for the mind. He tells us learning devices are not lessons in themselves. Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. The worst a faulty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. Not a big deal. It has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. The body cannot introduce error. The body cannot introduce error. It's a learning device for the mind. Okay, you guys, actually, let me read this next part because then I'm going to come around to say what I'm going to say. But the body is merely part of your, he says, the body is merely part of your experience in the physical world. Its abilities can be and frequently are over-evaluated. Of course, they're over-evaluated. If we believe the body is causative, if we believe the body has creative ability, then it's going to be very overestimated or over-evaluated, right? But he tells us, however, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in the world. Those who do so are engaging in a particular unworthy form of denial. So he's saying, you can't deny the body. That's not helpful. But what if today we start to see that the body is a learning device given us? And it is actually, it can be misused by the ego and has been misused by the ego. And what happens when it's used by the ego is that learning doesn't happen and healing doesn't happen. It just doesn't, it's not facilitating learning. Okay, that's fine. But what happens today if we decide that we are going to take this learning device, part of our physical experience, and we are going to release it and lift it to the Holy Spirit and Jesus and say, we are giving you this body. We are giving you this body. And we are asking that it be used in right purpose now for the healing of our minds. And now this learning device, and later Jesus calls it a communication device, becomes the means by which it gets to be utilized to help wake us up instead of keep us sleeping, right? It gets to help bring us the miracles and the experience that we need instead of keeping us in suffering, right? Why? Like, we don't have to understand it. We don't have to be in charge of it, but we can't deny it. So let's welcome it as this beautiful learning device for the mind to be used in right purpose, right? And you have the perfect body. You have the perfect body in your physical experience to facilitate your awakening, right? And you might be like, look at this body I'm working with. Look at this. I can't deal with it. It's perfect when put into the hands of the Holy Spirit. And it's painful when it's left in the hands of the ego. We suffer at the hands of the ego when the body is in its under its perception. Okay, so we're getting things in right order, right? We're coming out of level confusion into right alignment. So Jesus says, all material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. Okay, magic is just the idea that things are external, right? Like that the problem is external, that the solutions are external. And of course, if we are accepting remedies like medicines and different things like that, whatever we would use to try to heal the body, it will strengthen our belief in magic. It's just a restatement that magic works. It's a restatement that magic is the remedy, right? So, but then he says, oh, actually, this is important. He says, this is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. So it's kind of like error number one, that illness comes from the body, right? We just want to say that's an error in the mind to see that to believe that illness comes from the body. He then says it is a second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents. Okay, that's error number two, that we look for external healing, what he calls non-creative agents, which is just external things to heal, right? Basically form. We look to form as the healing agent. Then this is important. He says, it does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil. It's not evil. It's not evil at all. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the atonement. Okay. In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. I love that. He said, okay, it's okay sometimes to give something outside, some kind of magic potion, whatever it is, temporary healing belief, if that is what actually keeps the mind calm and does not increase fear. He's not interested in increasing fear. He's not interested in that. Okay. This is because the last thing that can help the non-right-minded or the sick is an increase in fear. That's just what I said, right? He's like, so I love that he says a compromise approach. This is my experience with it. Let's just give the example of a headache. I am not that interested in having a headache. So sometimes I'll take, for example, like an Advil or something for my headache. Okay. But what I remember now is that, and I will tell you that often if I feel guided to take one, I kind of check in. Does that feel like the guidance? That feels fine. That feels kind. There's still a kindness level about that. There seems to, there's some level of belief that that works, and that's my experience. But the compromise approach that he's calling forward is, will you also address unforgiveness in the mind? Will you also address that perhaps there's something going on beyond the headache, that is, the headache is simply a reflection of a block, unforgiveness in the mind, and that you could lift the headache up to the Holy Spirit. You can lift the symptom up to the Holy Spirit and say, hey, I'm open to seeing this differently. I'm open to seeing this differently. So that's how he's worked with me for many years around bodily symptoms and things like that. It's like, I just don't want to leave my mind out of it. I don't want to say that, oh, this happened. I have a headache because I didn't get a good sleep. No, that's magic. That's faulty cause and effect. I have a headache because there's some unforgiveness in my mind. That's the truth of it. There's something going on in the mind, and I'm having this experience. And so if I'm willing to, yes, maybe I just take an Advil and that helps with the headache, but I don't want to just stop there, because that won't heal the inherent fear that's underneath. To get at the fear, I want to lift the whole situation to Holy Spirit and Jesus and say, show me how to see this differently. I want the miracle. I want to be open to the miracle. Okay. So he tells us, and I love this. This is so sweet, you guys. This is how we work with the Course in Miracles. He says the value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed, which means the value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which the form it takes, the way that we are guided for the healing. It doesn't matter. In fact, it is used, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. That's really beautiful. That means Jesus and Holy Spirit are going to meet us right where we're at in a way that we can receive the healing. This means that a miracle, to attain its full efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. Okay, he says this. This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. Okay, so what he's saying is that no matter what is going on with us, no matter what problem we are perceiving, when we are open, he is going to come in and he's going to meet us in a capacity that we can understand and that we can accept without fear, without increasing fear, to help us move through the healing. And that's so beautiful. We have to be, it's so beautiful. It kind of works both ways. We learn to be receivers of the healing and the miracle, but we also see this as miracle workers, how this extends through us and how we meet other people with so much love in a way that they can feel met and feel seen and feel heard and feel loved. And you can see all the ways in which Spirit will move through us in a way that actually like meets another with so much compassion and care. Okay, so healing as released from fear is complete. We're going to move on to our next section, the function of the miracle worker. Do you not love that he's just talking about us as miracle workers already? He's talking to you, by the way. You are a miracle worker. That's the whole point of going through this curriculum. That is the point. You go through this curriculum and you are a miracle worker. Okay, so that is our true vocation, by the way, as well. I know we seem to have all these other careers, but we are miracle workers first and foremost, because the only cause and the only problem is on the level of the mind. And the miracle is the solution, the means given on the level of the mind. So Jesus tells us, before miracle workers are ready to undertake their function in this world, it is essential that they fully understand the fear of release. Okay, so this may be a hard thing to admit, but we are really afraid to let go of our egos. We are really afraid of that. We encounter that as we go along. We are afraid to lose control. We are afraid to give up control, to give up our authority. We are afraid to surrender, right? We are afraid to lose the self-concept. We are afraid to lose our ability to be the judge of things. We are afraid to seemingly, the ego threatens us. You will lose the world and yourself as you know it, right? It will threaten us around this. So we have to be very kind and gentle with ourselves when we realize there is a fear of release, right? And it's helpful for us to admit that. It's really helpful for us to admit that, but it's also helpful for us to admit that we are so tired and weary from suffering in the mind at the level that we do. And we are tired of the outpicturing of all of this, and we are ready to see things differently, okay? So he then tells us, he's kind of starting to repeat things, which I love. He says, it is essential to remember that only the mind can create, and that correction belongs at the thought level. Okay, I'm saying this again because this is what he is telling us again. Only correction. The error is in the mind, and correction belongs only on the mind level. I love that saying when he says, he would never place the correction. God would never place the solution apart from the error. He would put where the error seems to be in the mind. He's given us the correction, the solution in the mind. The ego tries to tell us there's like a problem over here, and then the solution, you got to go find it. It's somewhere else. Tries to divide it up. The error is in the mind. The correction is in the mind. To amplify an earlier statement, so here he is emphasizing something from before. He says, spirit is already perfect and therefore does not require correction. And the body does not exist except as a learning device for the mind. This learning device is not subject to errors of its own because it cannot create. So whatever goes on with the body, it's always because of the mind. It's always causative of the mind. The body didn't do anything. The body is the effect, okay? It is obvious then that inducing the mind to give up its miscreations is the only application of creative ability that is truly meaningful. We are here to give up our miscreations. We are here to give up our false perceptions. We are here to give up our limiting beliefs. We are here ultimately to undo from the belief that we have separated from God. That is what we are here to do. We have to the mind has to release its misperceptions. That is what forgiveness is. That is what the miracle does. Okay. He then says magic is the mindless or the miscreative use of mind. And of course, when we're in magical thinking, we're in the ego's thought system. We're in the thoughts of the world and the thoughts of problems and solutions and bodies and form and all of those things. He says physical medications are forms of spells. Okay. But if you are afraid to use the mind to heal, you should not attempt to do so. Because Jesus, he is the one walking us through this healing. And he's saying, he's telling us the truth that physical medications are not the answer. And he's also telling us, but you need to use them if you are afraid to utilize the mind on its own. And I will tell you that the majority of us are afraid to utilize the healing power of the mind on its own. And it is not helpful to just make yourself suffer. Okay. I've really learned gentler pathways and smoother roads. Jesus and Holy Spirit are not interested in increasing suffering by having us trying to white knuckle it through not taking medications and doing things like that. Eventually, if we don't feel inspired to use medications because we don't need them and we're really utilizing the power of our mind very directly, that's fine. But we're not jumping over the steps and the pathway that gets us there. Okay, please be kind. This is just so important. He tells us under these conditions, again, if we are afraid to use the mind to heal, under these conditions, it is safer for you to rely temporarily on physical healing devices, right? Because you cannot misperceive them as your own creations. As long as your sense of vulnerability persists, you should not attempt to perform miracles. He's just telling us when we're in that state, he's like, that's when we need help, right? That's when we're calling for help. That's our call for help. So he's just saying, be gentle with yourself, use what you need to use, and don't try to perform miracles in that place, right? Just be the receiver of the healing. He tells us, I have already said that miracles are expressions of miracle-mindedness, and miracle-mindedness means right-mindedness. The right-minded neither exalt nor depreciate the mind of the miracle worker or the miracle receiver. However, as a correction, the miracle need not await the right-mindedness of the receiver. Then he says this, in fact, its purpose is to restore him to his right mind. It is essential, however, that the miracle worker be in his right mind, however briefly, or he will be unable to reestablish right-mindedness in someone else. What he is saying there is that for the miracle to take place, the miracle worker and the miracle receiver does not have to be in his right mind. In fact, it is going to restore right-mindedness to the miracle receiver. But for the miracle to take place, the miracle worker has to be in his right mind. You have to be in your right mind, even if it's just for a short time. That's the only way the miracle comes through miracle-mindedness and right-mindedness. It cannot come through wrong-mindedness. And this is what happens, actually. Sometimes it's just an instant that's required and a miracle can come through. And then we can even vacillate back into our own wrong-mindedness. But we trust that the miracle will come through in the openings that are given, and the miracle worker can extend the miracle in from a place of his right mind. Jesus tells us, and this is something you're going to hear as a Course in Miracles student over and over, and it's something that you need to bring into your heart and into your mind. He says the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself. Yes, we are here for the healing of our mind. That is the truth of it. And when our mind heals and is in the healing, we then have that healing to extend to others. But we have to accept the correction. We have to remember, we have to accept that the separation from God didn't occur. And one of the ways that we do that is we just acknowledge God's presence right now. Right? We did that in our prayer. We do that right now. Holy Spirit and Jesus are present right now. How could we be separate from him if he is present right now? We accept the atonement for ourselves. Jesus tells us this means you recognize that mind is the only creative level and that its errors are healed by the atonement. Mind is the only creative level. You guys, this healing in A Course in Miracles is taking place completely on the level of mind. That's where the error exists, seems to exist. That is where the correction is. He says, once you accept this, your mind can only heal. Right? It can only heal. Once you accept the atonement, your mind can only heal. It's going to move past all the misthought. It's going to move past all the errors. It's going to go right to the Christ. It's going to go right to the light. It's going to go right to the remembrance. Here he says again, it should be emphasized again that the body does not learn any more than it creates. This is like repetitive. I don't know if you're noticing this about him telling us like the body's a learning device. It doesn't create. That's a misperception. It's a deep misperception. It's important though. He says as a learning device, it merely follows the learner. It follows the mind's directions. That's what happens. The body follows the mind's directives, right? But if it is falsely endowed with self-initiative, it becomes a serious obstruction to the very learning it should facilitate. And that all that means is that if we endow the body with the power to create, if we believe it's creating, if we believe it's making up the illness, if we believe it has that power, it's going to take some time to like forgive that. Like nothing heals when we're believing that. We just are stuck in the suffering. We're stuck in the misperception. And it can be an obstruction. It can delay us in time and it can delay us in suffering. So the speed up that we're given is to say, this is happening on the level of your mind and you need to forgive the body. You need to release the projections off the body. You need to come back to the mind and change your mind about what you're seeing. He tells us only the mind is capable of illumination. Spirit is already illuminated, and the body in itself is too dense. The mind, however, can bring its illumination to the body by recognizing that it is not the learner. The mind is the learner, right? Or the unlearner. The body is easily brought into alignment with a mind that has learned to look beyond it towards the light. That's really beautiful, right? Imagine that's what we do for our brothers. We learn to look beyond their bodies to the light, the shining Christ in them. And then when we see the Christ in them, we remember the Christ in ourselves. Jesus tells us corrective learning always begins with the awakening of spirit and the turning away from the belief in physical sight. This often entails fear because you are afraid of what your spiritual sight will show you. Okay. And again, this is just the threats of the ego, right? The ego just wants us so fixated in believing in our physical sight. And that's the mass distraction. It doesn't want us turning inward towards our minds. It doesn't want us turning inwards towards spirit. It wants us fixated on the world. And he tells us here, the fear of healing arises in the end from an unwillingness to accept unequivocally that healing is necessary. And I think I really think that's really beautiful because I guess that's the request on all of us is just to admit that healing is necessary. We all need healing. Unless we're completely at peace and completely in joy, we need healing. And we don't want to deny that anymore. But what this requires, he says, what the physical eyes see is not corrective, nor can error be corrected by any device that can be seen physically. So he's like, you have to pull away from what the physical eyes see, and you have to pull away from all the physical devices. They don't, on the level of the dream, they do seem to help, right? That's why I'm saying if it's peaceful to use them, but they don't heal. You hear me? They don't heal the fear that is keeps all the suffering in place. So use the physical devices if you're inspired to, but don't turn away from the mind and what's happening on the level of the mind. Lift up what is unforgiven there. Lift up the limited belief. Change your mind. Shift back into right-mindedness. Let go of let go of the fear. Bring it to the light. Do the healing on the level of the mind that's needed. He tells us, as long as you believe in what your physical sight tells you, your attempts at correction will be misdirected. We have to, I know it's like, we might as well all just close our eyes at this point to the world, because at least when we close our eyes, we're now can turn in the right direction. At least we can acknowledge that we are in mind. We can turn towards spirit. This fixation on the world, on form, on the physical, it has kept us caught, right, in misperception for much too long. And Jesus tells us healing is temporary, right? Because it's a thing of time. He says, as long as time persists, healing is needed as a means of protection. Okay. And then he tells us this. He talks a little bit about charity during this part. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I just want to define it quickly. He says charity is a way of looking at another as if he has already gone far beyond his actual accomplishments in time. What that means is that it is the beginning of us joining with the Holy Spirit's perception of our brothers and seeing their innocence instead of their guilt. It is about seeing the Christ in them, the light in them, instead of the guilt, instead of the body. Okay, so to be charitable is to see beyond the body to the truth of our brothers. And he says the miracle as an expression of charity can only shorten time. Okay, and that it must be understood, however, that whenever you offer a miracle to another, you are shortening the suffering of both of you. Okay, this corrects retroactively as well as progressively, meaning past, future, all levels of time. That's how the miracle corrects. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go over one more thing quite quickly, but it's very powerful. And my invitation to you around these teachings is that once we've gone through them and touched on these points, that you read the sections again. Chapter 2, Section 4 and 5, and Section 5A. Read them again now, after you've let these wash over you, right? It's just so beautiful what will land more deeply in your heart. Okay, so I don't want to leave this part out because I think it's really important, because we're in Chapter 2 and he's already talking about the special principles of miracle workers, because you are a miracle worker, right? That's what he's prepping us for miracle working. So he's just giving us some pointers. He says, remember that when you perform a miracle, I will arrange both time and space to adjust to it. Okay, that's Jesus's part, not us. We're just going to follow his directives and perform the miracles he gives us to perform. He tells us that a clear distinction between what is created and what is made is essential on this journey. Okay, so what is created is what is created by God, what is true, what is eternal, what is loving, what is perfect. And what is made is all the misperceptions of the ego. And what is made, the form, everything that's changing all the time, the world, the bodies, that is what needs forgiveness. Okay? He tells us never confuse right-mindedness and wrong-mindedness. I think it's kind of sweet though, because there's a huge journey to discern wrong-mindedness from right-mindedness. So just hold steady, but he's asking us not to confuse them, because ultimately right-mindedness is the mind that we need for correction. Okay? He also tells us that only right-mindedness can correct in a way that has any real effect. So if you do get into your wrong-mindedness and try to fix things there, it just won't work truly, right? It won't heal. It won't dissolve the fear. It may seem to work on the surface level, but whatever that fear is, it's going to come around in another form, right? He tells us forgiveness is an empty gesture unless it entails correction. Without this, it is essentially judgmental. And there's a whole part in the course about forgiveness to destroy and the ego's judgmental forgiveness, its own forgiveness. It's got, of course, it has its own version, its own brand. But he tells us miracle-minded forgiveness is only correction, right? It has no element of judgment at all. So that's the kind of forgiveness that we are going to be practicing on this journey. And then he says, time is under my direction, but timelessness belongs to God. In time, we exist for and with each other, and in timelessness, we coexist with God. And he ends the section with this: you can do much on behalf of your own healing and that of others if, in a situation calling for help, you think of it this way: I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. That is our miracle worker prayer. And if there's anything you're going to memorize in this course, I suggest it be that. So I am just sending you so many blessings as we are journeying through these incredible touch points in the course. He is washing our mind with right-minded thoughts. He is realigning our minds so that we can see clearly. If you are resonating with these teachings, if you want to go deeper on your journey with the course, if you feel like you could use some extra support, please visit our website, www.modernmiracles.com. We are here, arms wide open to you, hearts wide open. The lights are on. We welcome you in, and come journey with us. This course, it works, and that is exactly why we're here all the time and every moment, just inviting you to join us. Okay, so sending you tons of love.